All right.
Hello.
Hello. All right, here we go. Hello, everybody. My name is Kat Cosgrove. I am your host for today, and welcome to this August 5th, 2026 public meeting of the Kubernetes Steering Committee. As with all Kubernetes project meetings and project spaces, we have to comply with the Kubernetes Code of Conduct, which boils down to be excellent to each other. So if you experience a code of conduct violation or witness a code of conduct violation, please do report it. Um, Today we have quite a lot of people here because this is our steering election candidates Q&A. While attendees could please make sure their name is in the agenda. I believe most of you are, but um, yeah, it's just the candidate Q&A. You can ask us questions, but this is also about community members asking you questions as well. Um, don't know how many community attendees we will get, so it might be just like a lot of us chit chatting. But I do see a question. I'm curious how committee members deal with challenging decisions that need to be made. Where do you turn for inspiration and guidance? Are there any decisions that you're at liberty to talk about as an example? Um, it's it's a large part of being on steering is making difficult decisions, weighing what's best for the community at large and for our users. Um, we can't really talk about like the details of any of these large decisions, obviously, but the decisions about AI use was a pretty serious decision that we knew would have serious effects on the Kubernetes project, but also we were hyper aware, and whichever one of you wins will have to be hyper aware that decisions the Kubernetes project makes are looked at by other projects, and they may mimic what we do, or at least take inspiration from what we do. So we do have to be very careful. It's a lot of friendly arguing usually, but we try to be as measured as we can. Antonio, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I nothing in particular, but I think that one of the things that I find more interesting is that we, all of us, work in different parts of the project, some closer, some far away, and honesty and speaking up is one of the best things because you come with an idea, right? You see from your side of the project, oh, this is this way, but then somebody starts to explain the other point. Say, oh, I didn't know that was impacting that way. And I think that this diversity of ideas and opinions and these honest discussions is the best thing that happens in at least during my time in steering because you see how you can go with an predefined idea and how you may be, oh, you just totally changed my mind about the topic. And this is in iterations and yeah, I think that that's one of the best things I find for dealing with the challenging decisions is to speak up, be open, and be flexible on your ideas and in listening to others.
Yeah, being stubborn doesn't really work well on the steering committee for the health of the project. We all have to be very willing to change our opinions. We've all done it. It's necessary. It's a good thing. It doesn't make you like a better or more moral member of steering to be stubborn or die on a hill in most cases. So, um, are there any community questions for the candidates that are on the call, or any questions for us? Oh, there we go. One from Priyanka. Is there any process we have within steering to collect all the tacit knowledge and experience uh, folks have for future folks to learn from or refer to? There is a wealth of documentation. There is a shared Google Drive that we try very hard to put like drafts of all of our comms, and so you can see the history of how we've made every decision. But things that by the steering charter we can't discuss publicly, for example, you will. get access to the entire history of the private steering channel. It is all there. So it is also like important when you're in that channel to keep in mind that anything you type in there is going to be visible to all future members of steering, and you never know who that's going to be. So, um, which can be real fun if you immediately search for your own name in that channel, which of course I did. So, and I think everybody does that. You will too, probably. Does anybody else have a comment on that one for the steering? Question from Kaslin. How often are projects or decisions long-term versus short-term discussions? It depends on what it is. If it's something that we all like pretty immediately agree upon, then it may be like a few days of like nitpicking nuance or like carefully crafting the comms. We don't release comms that don't have approval from at least the majority of members of steering, and we try to get everybody. So there's usually several days of like nitpicking in a doc, minimum. Long term, there are issues that have been being discussed the entire year I've been on steering, that have like really extreme upsides and downsides, that we haven't come to a decision on yet. Um, from Sean, are there any large initiatives or pending decisions coming up that steering is concerned about? Um, yes, but we can't talk about them. Sorry. From Jeremy, for the candidates, how would you handle a situation where your employer strongly pushes for something that potentially is harmful to the community? Paslin, would you like to start? You're at the top of my screen.
Sure would. Yeah. Uh, there are lots of companies involved in Kubernetes, and they all have opinions, especially we've seen that in cases throughout the project. I've been really interested in the AI conformance program and how many different voices and opinions are in on that one. But for my personal case, Google, of course, does a lot of contributing to Kubernetes. If a situation came up where the company was pushing for something that would have a negative impact on the community, um, I think it's my job, both as an employee of Google and as a member of the community, to counsel them on why that's not a good idea and see if we can find a better path to what they're trying to achieve. So that's how I would look at it. As someone who's been in the community for a long time and served on a lot of different roles, I feel like I would be in a good position to counsel them on that.
Okay. Next up on my screen, Elmiko.
Thanks. Yeah, I've kind of developed a reputation inside of Red Hat for being noisy with my bosses and whatnot. So I think firstly, I'd probably start a conversation inside Red Hat, like, in a wider channel, at least to push back. And I really liked what Caslin said there about like, kind of helping them to see the light or kind of instructing them a little better. But also I think to the extent that I could, I would probably try to share what's happening with the other members of the steering committee as well. Red Hat has a pretty good reputation for openness and transparency. And so if it's not part of our private business plans, like if they were trying to do something in a way that, just didn't seem right, I would definitely want to highlight that to the other committee members as well. But yeah, like I like to make a lot of noise internally, so I would probably start there.
Thank you. Sean?
Thanks. Yeah, I've been in this situation before, and my stance is always project first, community or company second. So the cases where I've gotten into this before, I've gone what's good for the community, and it ends up being more of an internal thing of, okay, now how do I handle this on my own side of within this company? So usually it's been educating other people within the company that, yeah, this makes sense for us, but this is why this does not make sense to be in an open source project. where it wouldn't be necessarily beneficial for the other people involved in the project or the project as a whole. Um, and then kind of what you had just said, talking to other people in the community, maybe there's a way that we could find something that isn't necessarily what the company is pushing for, but could be tweaked or morphed in some way that, okay, maybe there's something within this that is broadly applicable to the project that what the company wants can sort of be addressed or slightly adjusted and does end up being beneficial for the rest of the project and the rest of the community.
Great, thank you. And Priyanka.
Yeah, I think like my views are mostly same as other people, but I would say I have practiced that within my other roles, specifically GitHub admin. So not where um, my employer is strongly pushing for something harmful, but let's say I am doing something that does not fit the, their growth or their interest. I think approaching it with community and written guidelines, written policies has helped me to just keep my point, keep my hat there, and trying to teach them or trying to share them why we are doing what we are doing. So definitely, like written policy, written guidelines helps there, but I can understand not always we have everything written down. There are always new things, new challenges we are dealing with. So that's why we have 7 people on the steering. So definitely, I would use the group as a whole to discuss it. Within company also, I think, again, I'm running in an individual capacity here. So I would first discuss with my group whatever it is, whether steering or SIGs, and then bring it back to how to my employer, and in a shape and form where we all agree. It's okay to discuss within my company as well. But yeah, most of these I think are going to be case basis. Yeah, so that's how I think I will approach them. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any more questions for steering or for the candidates? Priyanka's got a hand up. What's up,
Yeah.
Priyanka?
I had one before we started this one. So I just wanted to ask the sitting steering members how much of what you had envisioned from your goals when you ran for steering, how much do you think you have been able to achieve? And like anybody want to share your experience, your journey so far in terms of what you wanted to do when you wanted to be on the steering role, and how much of that you think you're able to achieve already. Uh,
Sure. Um, there's one thing that I want to achieve that I haven't yet achieved, but I'm hopeful that we can get her done in the next year. Hopefully in the next few months. It's dramatic and has wide-reaching effects, but hopefully I can get it done. Otherwise, it's been pretty much exactly how I expected. It is a people management role. It's a knowing how to delegate role. It's a being able to negotiate the future of the second largest open source project in the world role. It's not like technical leadership role. It's distinct from all of your other project roles. So it has been exactly what I expected. I enjoy it. I enjoyed the opportunity to solve unique problems that are going to impact the project now and long term. So it's what I wanted. Next up on my screen is Mache.
There are a couple of topics that I would like to dive deeper, but time and different constraints are not always allowing us to accomplish all of the problems. So there will always be some issues that we could do a little bit more than what we are doing. Um, but sadly, we have to agree with the fact that not always everything is possible. There are different times. Um, at which point in time steering is taking a significant portion of time of your daytime. And at that point in time, it's very hard to devote even more time to handle some additional promises. And literally every single one of us, and we've talked about it a couple of times, is usually handling a couple of areas within a project. And so you're always navigating what you are able to fulfill at what point in time and where to make the project move forward at a reasonable pace and not stall at any point in time.
Thank you, Maciej. Next on my screen is Antonio.
Well, it's also I'm you know me from my work, so I'm a guy about the stability. So I think that it is challenging. You get always some things unexpected, but I really happy with my stay at the steering. I I envision to be honestly more easier and less challenging. It's not that you have a lot of things, but the things that you need to handle are tricky, are complicated. It require, I don't know if it was Kat who said, it requires soft skills, human connections, all these kind of things. But I'm really happy, and I think that it was a great experience, and more or less, it's more or less how I feel it. But I think that I expect it to be easier than than it was in the good sense.
Thank you, Antonio. Next up, we have Paco.
Can you hear me? Yeah. I think there's some topics, and one of them is about the connections between us with CNCF or CNCF tags. And I just starting some work in the after the CNCF tag reboot and work mainly in some tag workloads foundation or something like that. I think we can play a more important role on the connections between the CNCF projects and Kubernetes community. I'm trying to do more about that in the next years, maybe.
Thank you, Paco. And finally, Rita.
Yeah, I think +1 to pretty much a lot of stuff people already mentioned. But I think specifically for me on a personal level, it's just kind of good to see how steering is able to kind of help in different areas. Coming from the SRC. I was here presenting like a lot of the SRC like sort of like need help stuff prior to being on the steering committee. So it's been a lot of good learning being on the other side. Yeah. And thanks for everybody else helping, improve that area of the project. Thanks.
Thank you, Rita. Another question from Jeremy. What are the top 3 things you'd like to accomplish on steering? And which would you drop based on time/bandwidth constraints or challenges? We will start with Caslin.
The top thing on my mind that I think is an important steering responsibility that is very important to the continued health of the project right now is our AI policy. I think the policy that we have written right now is good and broad and covers a lot of situations. It may not be as well seen as it might need to be. There are probably some needs to continue with comms, says the comms lead. And the space is just changing so fast that I think the needs of the project are likely to continue to evolve over time. And that may not be an evolution of the policy, but it may be an evolution of how that policy is enforced at different SIGs. SIG leads might have questions about specific situations that come up. So I think there's going to continue to be AI things that get up to the steering level that are going to need to be decided. And as far as prioritization goes, I believe there are two end states for any task: done and not done. And if something is not done, then there are two possible states for that. Either it's done in being not done because it doesn't matter anymore, or it's not done and will continue coming up until it gets done. So I think I was looking at an old interview with Ben Elder about being on steering, and he said something about like it's kind of a general escalation path for all kinds of problems in the project. So I'm not sure what all kinds of problems I might end up dealing with as part of steering, but I'm up for the challenge of figuring out what those are and trying to prioritize them as they come up. I think that's the best answer I got right now.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Almiko.
Thanks. This is a good question, but it's also a question that I kind of struggle with. Because like when I think about steering and the things I've read about the steering committee and everything, when I think about accomplishing something on the steering committee, it seems a little bit odd to me because, like I realize if I'm elected, we'll be dealing with problems that bubble up to us and things that are, conflicts that are coming up and whatnot and challenges. Um, but in terms of things that I could accomplish, I have a little bit of a blind spot here in that like I'm not sure how much, you can do from the steering committee. But, that said, there are some things that I'm concerned about in the Kubernetes community or things I would like to see become better. Um, and like one of those I think is really important is like keeping up with how we're bringing new contributors into the project. And over the last couple of years, I think the influence that AI has had and the changes that it's bringing are kind of changing the relationships that we're having to new contributors and the way that they're learning about the project and becoming involved. And so, you know, I would like to see us continue to focus on, or actually focus more on like how do we meet those new contributors? How do we build that on-ramp for them in a way that meets them where they're at now? And maybe that requires like looking at what we're doing and updating things for where people are at. But I think it's one area that I would like to I would like to make sure that we're bringing new people in and that they're having a good experience doing that. Um, Another topic that's kind of dear to my heart coming out of the SIG cloud provider kind of areas is I would like to see better cross cloud testing in Kubernetes as we had this huge effort to remove all the cloud specific code in the core Kubernetes related to SIG cloud provider. And now what that's showing us is that I think there's a gap in testing that we have for cross clouds. And I've been working with the SIG to try and develop some plans for that, but I would love to see a future where Kubernetes cross cloud testing is getting even better, and then we have a stronger signal for people who are coming to see how the different how Kubernetes behaves on different clouds and making sure that it's kind of standard across the infrastructures. And then, the last thing, just to kind of round out the top three things here, I'm also concerned about the AI policy in Kubernetes. And I think for me, the most important focus of that is making sure that we protect the humans who are involved in the process. I think, if I've learned anything over my years of open source development, like it's about the people involved, it's about the communications we have and everything. And seeing what's been happening with the use of AI, I think is definitely disrupting how we behave as an open source community. And I really appreciate the direction that the current guidelines are going. And I would like to see us continue to kind of focus on protecting the people, who make Kubernetes what it is. So yeah, that's it for me.
Thank you. Next up is Sean.
Yeah. Not coming in with a big agenda. It's not like there's anything that I think strongly needs to change with steering or is missing from what steering is already paying attention to. Um, so one of my big areas is looking at policies and how that impacts contributor friction and whether we're encouraging people to be involved in the community, or we're unintentionally forcing people out or not letting people in. One of the things I've seen lately a lot, it's coming up everywhere, but AI policy or AI things where how do we balance not the contributors not or the maintainers not having to put up with a bunch of AI slop, but also making sure it's easy and understood how contributors can use AI in a beneficial way for the project. We do most things in English. There's a lot of the world where English is not the primary language. I've seen things where people have been using AI partly as a way to make that easier for them to cross that gap from their native language to being able to even interact with the rest of the project. And I think it's gotten a little better, but I've seen a few instances where there's more like an accusatory stance that or response that they would receive on PRs and things like that. So just I don't have an answer to it, but how do we make it so that we can get some benefit, help people be able to contribute that want to contribute, and avoid some of the problems that we've had with that. Yeah, I don't really have a set list of top three things, but looking at policies, looking how we can just keep things moving smoothly. I recognize a lot of what happens ends up being reactive just by what comes up in the community. So I expect that's probably going to take a large amount of time. So as far as what drops, just prioritizing what's the biggest fire of the day, what's the biggest issue that people are experiencing, and making sure that we can try to focus on some of those big impactful things that are impacting the community, so that we can try to just make everything smoother. That's all I got.
Alrighty. Thank you. And last up is Priyanka.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't have a three top things, but one of the major things that why I'm running is what I've talked about in other spaces also is I want to use the space to represent the underrepresented area. And by that, what I mean is there are portions in the project, by portions is part of the globe, where there is a big, humongous contributor base, but not so much of a maintainer base or leadership positions in those areas. And what happens as a result of that is if for every bigger decision, for every decision, you have to go to the leaders or the time zone where the leaders sit, and the decision making happens there. The next set of leaders comes from that space, just because everybody have to struggle and show up in that time zones or show up in I don't know, you don't have like really people to look in your own areas, and to learn from them to become next leader. So I think my agenda here is, if I can get a steering committee role, and if I can present my stance on that whenever we are discussing policies, like, okay, can we do something to also be more inclusive towards this area where there is a big humongous contributor base. And I talk from where I am coming from. We have a humongous contributor base, but do we have that much of a maintainer base? No. So that is my goal. That's what I want to achieve out of this position. And other than that, I think, again, I am looking forward to more work as and when it comes, but this is my top one, not top three, but top one agenda.
Thank you, Priyanka. Next, we have a question from Mario. When you enter steering, what is your plan to cope with the time that now might go into steering and not into your current leadership role in the project? We'll start with Caslin.
Now I have two leadership roles in the project right now. sub-project lead of the contributor communications sub-project in SIG Contribex and a co-chair of SIG Contribex. For contributor comms, we have co-leads of the sub-project, myself and Chris Short. Chris Short has been there as long as I have and is very familiar with the group and our policies and all of that kind of thing. And I think he's in a pretty good position right now where if I needed to step back from that a bit, he would be able to help organize how we would handle that. And so co-leads for the sub-project, I think would help a lot. And then for co-chairs, we do have a number of co-chairs and tech leads in Contribex, but I think we're reaching a point, honestly, where we need to start getting the next round of leads into SIG Contribex. So we've been discussing who in the group is active enough that we want to be mentoring them and what does that mentoring look like. But that's something that's going to have to happen over the next year or two. It's just a long-term thing to be able to train up new leads. In the meantime, relying on the other existing leads and on those contributors who are very active in the project who we might be training up. Those are some of my main tactics. Relying on others and helping to grow them as best I can.
Thank you. Next up, Elmiko.
Yeah, so I'm currently a co-chair and tech lead for SIG Cloud Provider. And we have a pretty good I guess a pretty good leadership cohort there. Bridget Cromhout is the other co-chair, and we have a couple good tech leads as well. So I'm not super concerned about the cloud provider work, but I am also getting involved in the Node Identity Working Group as a co-chair, which there'll be 4 other co-chairs in that as well. But honestly, the way that I've been approaching this and the way I've been looking at the possibility of joining the steering committee has actually been to focus on reducing my workload inside Red Hat and adjusting expectations there. So I'm hopeful that I'll be able to continue contributing at the same levels in the upstream. But what I'm going to try to do is I've been training replacements inside Red Hat who are coming up to take over some of the leadership responsibilities that I have there. So I'm hoping to free up more of my time to do upstream work. And that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. And if it turns out that that is insufficient, I've been a co-chair and tech lead at Cloud Provider for a while now, and it's probably a good time to start looking for replacements as well. And there's a couple people I know who'd probably be good to step into the role. So I guess that's the way I'm looking at it.
Thank you. And Sean?
I make lists. Yeah, keeping track of things that I need to do, and then I think with more time commitment, you kind of need to look at what you're actually spending your time on. So it wouldn't necessarily mean stepping down from other things, but being better at recognizing that, oh, I've been doing this task because it's a pretty easy task for me and I don't have to think about it too much. But a lot of those things end up being the great things that you can delegate to other people that are looking for ways that they can help out. So if I got in the situation where I really trying to figure out how to fit everything in, I think there are things that can be um, useful for others to do, and kind of like succession planning for other roles. It's great to have people with some of that experience. Um, Kind of what Elmiko said too with company wise. It's kind of a catch-22 that I think for a lot of people, being on the steering committee then gives leverage to go back to the company and get the approval or the time to be on the steering committee. So that would be one thing that I'm pretty sure I have other people that internally at the company for internal things that I do that I would be justified and have the support to be able to offload some of that. So um, yeah, not too concerned that I wouldn't be able to devote the time I need to.
Alrighty, thank you. And Priyanka.
I think for me, I think I'm running only after taking into account all the areas where I'm involved in, both upstream, downstream. So I think I can say I'm already aware of how much time I'm supposed to be putting into this new role if I end up in that role. And I think I can comfortably, with my current set of responsibility, commit to that much. So
Thank you, Priyanka, and welcome to the call, Ben. Does anyone else have questions for sitting steering or for steering candidates? Okay, if not, well, Miko, what's up?
Yeah, I guess I have a question kind of following up on Mario's question here, and maybe I'll turn it around to the other steering committee members. When you joined steering, how did you feel that it impacted the work that you were doing in the community and the work that you were doing, professionally for your company in terms of the time load that it brought on?
This is for existing steering members.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
I will be an outlier because I have always been able to make sure that upstream work is like actively part of my day job. So I get the extra time to do this. But initially, I planned to step down as a tech lead for SigDocs. Like we had a replacement lined up, and I was going to step down. There was a KubeCon video where I give my last talk as part of SigDocs leadership. But it didn't end up being necessary, and we actually ended up needing an additional tech lead. So like it wouldn't have been possible to do it without me. So I am an outlier, though. I get to make this my job. Most people don't. So don't look at me as an example. Ben.
Yeah. So I mean, I think some of us, including myself, have a technical role in the company. And when I joined steering, I think I was already a senior software engineer, and I kind of needed to be building things. And I think steering was a little useful to be able to point to from leadership, but only a little bit because they're mostly looking for that inside the company with other people you're working with. So it can be very tricky to balance that. I felt I needed to spend a lot of time on um, the sort of like people part of the project as opposed to the like code or docs or something. And it sort of just became an extra thing to do. But I don't know, the project has been very important to me for a long time. So it felt worth it to me personally, but it can be hard to balance with work. And I think that's something people should keep in mind. A lot of what steering is doing is not very visible because people are raising like sensitive concerns about things that they're escalating all the way up to the steering committee. And so it might not necessarily appear very busy, but it can get very busy. And it will probably not have a lot of overlap with your work if you have a technical role.
Thank you, Ben. Next up, Mache.
I'm gonna join Kat's opinion of having a significant portion of my time that I could devote and I still can devote to upstream. Previously I would say close to 50. Currently 50 is a good number that I have set in stone. So I'm able to make sure that all the work within steering and the SIGs and subgroups that I'm involved in has the necessary time commitments. Of course, it will shift depending on the schedule of the project, primarily the release schedule, and that when it's becoming a little bit more tricky. For example, when the enhancement freezes, the majority of my time is spent on the production readiness reviews. Um, Closer to the code freeze, it'll be reviews for the appropriate SIGs. And then steering is basically everything on top. And like I've mentioned before, sometimes it's extremely busy with some extra work bubbling up to us. And sometimes we have a little bit of leeway to make sure that all the stuff that we are responsible are moving in the safe pace forward.
Thank you, Mache. And Antonio's next.
I think that I just agree with my colleagues on that, but I think that one of the most important things to me is not about the amount of time, but the quality of time. In the sense that, as Maciek was saying, right, there are things that sometimes are going smooth, so you don't have much to do. But when you have to deal with things, those require quality time and block agenda and think carefully and discuss and all this kind of thing. So, in my opinion, I don't think that the steering is something that you can say, oh, I need 20 hours per week or 5 hours per week. What you need is the capacity to say, look, we are dealing with an important escalation with whatever, or with the other thing, or with these other topics, and I need to block this time, this week, or these 2 weeks, or whatever. So my advice is that you get this capacity to block time if necessary, more than asking, oh, I need these 5 hours per week. But well, it's my opinion on this topic.
Thank you, Antonio. And Rita.
Uh, yeah, for me, I also kind of had to like step down from other responsibilities. I think in terms of like just kind of seeing Jeremy's question in the chat, um, misconception was for me was also um, like I thought it would be more overlapping with my existing responsibilities, and it actually didn't. So I find that out like after. Um, so and you know I got a new job, so I did have to kind of step down from the existing stuff. Just yeah.
Thank you, Rita. And question from Jeremy. Questions for current steering members, maybe to inform candidates. What was your biggest misconception about serving on steering, or the thing that surprised you the most? I have two. Um, it is incredible how often you will not be able to get anything done. Problems that you go in wanting to solve that seem easy to solve from your perspective pretty commonly become clearly a massive problem once you have perspectives from everybody else on steering in very different parts of the project and you have a high level view of the implications of that change. Many things become difficult or impossible to solve. And you, at the same time, have to deal with parts of the community expecting you to solve this and not understanding exactly how difficult it really is. Um, I also think that I was not fully prepared for the emotional impact of being on steering. You are going to deal with some problems that are incredibly unpleasant, and you will not be able to talk to anybody about those incredibly unpleasant problems that you have to resolve because um, people do treat the steering committee as an escalation point where maybe we shouldn't actually be the escalation point, but because there's a lack of documentation, we're the default to deal with it. And some of those problems are going to be super messy. People's feelings will get hurt, and you are going to have nobody to talk to outside of the steering committee about it. Like you can't call one of your other friends in the project and vent about that. And that sucks. So be prepared for that. Have a therapist, you know, have a close friend who will listen to you rant about something that they don't understand because they're uninvolved in the project, because that's going to happen quicker than you think, and it sure sucks. Mache. Oh, Ben's got his hand up. Go for it, Ben.
Yeah, because I just want to underscore everything Kat said and actually say that that's why I'm late to this meeting, because I was doing exactly that and lost track of time. Like, everything Kat said completely underscored that. I don't think I had some inkling, but the like actual levels of it, like I want to repeat again, this is not a technical body. We delegate that to all these SIGs and other groups. This is where the messy people problems come, that between like steering and or conduct, and they're not fun, but it's important.
Yeah, unglamorous work that nobody will ever see. Next up, Mache.
I, I don't think there's anything else to be add to what Kat and Ben said. Therapist, friend, spouse, are basically having a very, very thick skin. I can drop other stuff like, I don't know, meditating or journaling, whatever is your jam, to be able to, at some point of your day, to offload your mental load, which probably helps with just any other situation, but primarily with the steering. I I came to the steering knowing that a lot of the work will be related to people management and, like Ben said, handling messy people problems. And yet I was to some degree surprised about what kind of situation we have to deal with. So yeah, that's roughly what I wanted to say.
Yeah, thank you, Antonio.
Well, I want to cheer up. I mean, we are the motivating candidate. The people that was managing their career knows. But I'm for any reason I was managing a lot of time. So yeah, this is people project, people management and feelings a lot. So, and in my experience, the people that used to be only in engineering side find this very shocking, and it's shocking because you need to do with people management. So I think that it's important you take this feedback. Is people management problems are always hard to leave out of the computer and the other thing and get to you. So I think that that's the thing that you need to deal with, because the technical part you just reboot or shut down and it goes away, right? But yeah, steering has a lot of feelings and a lot of passion for the project, and that's what you need to look for, that, and people that see the people taking decisions on the goods, on the best for the project and explain the things, is the one that is going to have all the support from the community and the other steering members. But you need to deal with people problems, and people problems are hard to to live away, and then you need to deal with them. So don't get demotivated, but just so you know,
Yeah,
you
not to
have to
all
deal
of
with
us
them.
be like massive downers or whatever, but
Yeah,
yo,
yeah,
steering's
yeah.
depressing. Um,
Yeah. No, it's
Rita,
exciting. Let me just think.
yeah,
This is the dark side, but then there is the other side when you achieve something and the people come to you say, "Oh, these new things that you're doing is great," and oh, this is awesome. So there are good and bad things. The thing is that usually you always are more sensible to the bad. Sorry, Rita,
uh,
I stepped it.
we'll let
Can I
Rita
briefly
give
add
her answer
something to
next.
that?
Oh, yeah, sure.
That Antonio raised a really good point. One of the other things that surprised me was some of the ways that we're able to help people, and that feels really good. Like for example, some of our like project leads have reached out for help with visa support, and with the steering committee, sending a formal letter underlining what they've done to the relevant government bodies, and we've been able to put together like a process for this, and it's always a little hard, but some of the outcomes have been really good, and that feels good.
That does feel phenomenal. I love getting those. That's my favorite thing we do, actually. Rita, do you have an answer for this one? You like kind of gave an answer earlier, but
Yeah. I think just +1 on all these, but also like I had no idea of all the things that steering actually had to take care of, right? And as y'all mentioned, like there's a lot of stuff that happens in private, so people don't really see. Like what Ben was saying about like, helping people with visa stuff was like I had no idea. So I think there's a lot of things that this group of people are doing that is really rewarding, and if that's like your jam, like this is like the perfect job. Yeah.
thank you. Priyanka, you got your hand up. We have 5 minutes left on this call.
Yeah, I have one more question, actually, two, but small ones. In many of our last cycles or cohorts of steering, even though we know steering is a people management position or process oriented position, but a lot of people have come from very technical portions of the Kubernetes project. So I just want to understand, did that experience helped you take better steering decisions at all? Of course they did, but any somebody feels like that sitting steering?
Um, I don't think it applies to me because I am no longer a software engineer. So, um, Ben certainly is. So,
I mean, there are points when we need to review things like maybe the charters for SIGs and how they break down on what they own technically or something. But I mean, I don't say there's none, and you certainly, it's not like software engineers spend no time with like people problems, even if they're not managers. But I don't think it's a lot. I think mostly just um, the time spent in the community and like having a good idea how things work across the project. I really encourage people to spend some time doing something like the release team first, where you're going to interact with a really broad swath of the project so that you kind of know where people are coming from. And like that's something you can do as a technical role easily, but it's not necessarily from the technical role. If that makes sense.
thank you, Ben. Does any other current steering member want to answer that one? Okay, Priyanka, what was question two?
Okay, just trying to understand. Can you share some examples where or platforms ways steering interacts with CNCF or reaches out to CNCF for help? Um, yeah, yeah. Any examples? Any? Yeah.
I mean, I have one but that's pretty easy. When we shut down Ingress Nginx, we used the CNCF's media team. Uh, that is a thing we have the ability to do. It's a resource they provide to all projects. We just don't use it frequently outside of the release process. But yeah, we use the CNCF's media team to set up interviews with journalists, set up interviews with analysts at KubeCon, and publicize the information about the upcoming archiving of Ingress Nginx. It's a pretty unusual one. Really doesn't come up often, but that's the thing we can do. Antonio?
Yeah, you raised one. Is with QCon, you always some way or another. Usually, you have interaction, right? They change something, some SIG doesn't have a slot, or these kind of things. I think those are periodic and usually in steering. Another example is the Slack situation. You remember when the Slack was going to be shut down? Well,
Yeah.
that is, yeah, this kind of things escalate all the way up, and there is a lot of chaos and confusion. And the steering used to be there just to try to concentrate information and avoid the panic. It was a very stressful situation. So I think those are two good examples. QCon
Yeah.
and the Slack and the one that you say with Ingress. Three examples.
Also, anytime we need input from a legal perspective, we go to the CNCF for that. Like with the AI policy, we worked with CNCF legal for that one. Well, I technically it's LF legal, I think. Okay,
Yeah.
we have 1 minute left, so we don't have time for any more questions. I would like to thank everybody for attending, for making the time, and everybody for asking questions. Been very helpful. This will be automatically posted to YouTube as soon as the automation controlled by Contribex picks it up. So I'm looking at Mario on this one, I think. He seems embarrassed. Um, who would like to be our bosun for next month's public meeting? Oh, no volunteers.
When are the elections?
Next month, you will still be in your seat.
Okay, then I can take it, and that's a good, so to say goodbye.
Okay.
Because it's known that I'm not. It
Yeah.
finished the candidate, so no, I'm not going to repeat this year. Maybe in the next.
We will miss
But
you though.
I'm not going anywhere. Okay, I will take the Boston and I will do the next steering public meeting. Well, good
Okay.
luck to all the candidates and have a good day.
Good luck, y'all. Thank you for coming. Stop the share and stop the recording. See you all on YouTube.